All right, let's talk about arpeggiating and arpeggios and what exactly is a sequencer. Somewhat confusing to some, they're pretty much the same thing if we think about it. So let me just kind of give you some ideas very quickly. I'm going to share the screen. I'll hopefully spell it out for you. Now, one of the ways that I like to create an arpeggiation in this case is, well, let's just call up our retro synth on here. And if you look on the top here, you see you've got access to MIDI effects. See here where my cursor is. So I open up those MIDI effects and let's just call up an arpeggiator. If you saw the video where I was playing the arpeggiation in the house, you could see, the little fatty. I was using the arpeggiator inside the little fatty, and this is the one that's built inside the DAW, and I think some of you will really, really dig this. And you can see here it gives us access to a certain rate, gives us access to a bunch of different patterns, a variation in the pattern. And on top of that, if we wanted to, we could actually get to some of these presets that they give us as well. And I find that those are also very powerful. So how does this work? Well, essentially you have to hold down a chord. And so what I'm gonna do then is just go back over to the controller that I had. I think you could kind of see that Arturia. And if I hold down a chord, it's gonna pulse through. So whatever I hold down, so if the tempo is faster or slower or whatever that is, it will follow that tempo. You can change the order, as you can see here, but I could change the variation. I could change the octave range. Very, very powerful. So just imagine then, if we had a drum beat, we could really make that work. And as you can see here, I'll just kind of play that in. It's going to work perfectly with your metronome. So what if we got a little pulse going? And realistically, it's as simple as, in this case, even if you don't have any keyboard skills, I'm just holding down every other note and all one notes. As long as you hold down more than a couple notes, it will arpeggiate. And that's hopefully going to be a lot of fun for some of you as far as that pattern is concerned. Now, that's definitely one way to go. So how do we get this into the DAW or into the sequencer? It's really quite simple. So as you can see here, I'm just holding down the one chord. And if I input that back in, going back to the DAW here, you're going to see that there's really not much information that's had. Now that will read back because of the simple fact of starting from that point here, you're playing your arpeggiator back. Now, one of the things that I've found, and it's really quite simple, sometimes not every voice plays back, so making sure that the voice starts not over the phrase, but right when that bar and beat sets. And so sometimes maybe potentially you might not hear every voice that you had, simply because it's just over that bar, basically. So hopefully that will clear that up. But as you can see here, what's arpeggiating then is the actual plugin. So if I take the plugin off, there's nothing rolling to it. It's just a big drone. The arpeggiator is everything. I'll tell you what, I use it a lot, I gotta tell you. So I love this arpeggiator, but is that the only thing? Now, obviously, there's several ways that we can utilize this. There's a lot of different things that we can change. We can change the rate. Let me just give you some ideas. Imagine them going back to the retro and then pulling back on the envelope. Very Pink Floyd, right? Multiple ways to do the same thing. how can we arpeggiate within the analog world? Well, it's kind of showing you here, essentially as far as the fatty. I could take this little fatty, right? And I can hold down the fatty, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to hold down a simple chord, just as long as it's a chord. And I'm going to pick the arpeggiator up on the top. Now I've got access to it. Now it just runs through, essentially, right? Hopefully you watched the last video, essentially, you can see that all of these synths would be connected together, of course, when I run that sequence. But the idea is that the arpeggiation of the sequence that's being ran is happening through the fatty. That's all inside the computer, inside the actual synth in itself. So you buy the synth, a lot of us would buy the fatty for the actual sequence so that we can, put that within our records or whatever it is. It's the same idea. We can speed it up, slow it down. Beautiful, right? Another way that we could look at this is maybe a sequencer in itself. So this is a step sequencer. And the step sequencer is made by Korg. The Korg SQ1, sorry, it's upside down. So the SQ1 is really easy. It has these little dials. And so if I wanted to have it in high pitch in that sense, you can see here, I can run the sequence, and that sequence is going to run through those lights. And then I could take and change the pitch by twisting these little dials. So the more I twist it forward, it'll be obviously higher in pitch, or the more I twist it back to the left, it's going to be lower in pitch. So now what's fun is then I could take the control voltage in the gate out, and I could put it into some of these synths, as long as those synths will accept it. And this synth that I've got over here, the Arp Odyssey, will accept it. Let me show you what I mean. So I'll take this sequencer, the Korg SQ1, and this isn't big money stuff here, my friends. This is $100. I'll take this guy out, and I'm just using a standard 1/8" plug, right? We just plug it into the CV out in the gate. I'm going to plug it into this particular synth. CV in, gate out to gate in. And then that sequence that I just showed you, I'll just simply hit play. And now I've got that sequence running. So let's say if I wanted it all to be kind of bassy, I'll just twist them all down. Right? Or if I wanted it to change up the sequence, I'll twist the dial here a little bit, just mess stuff up. Let's say we want to speed it up a little bit. It's an R2D2 going on, right? This little guy, if you really look at it, is very similar to that sequencer that we just saw. You look here, we've got access to the different patterns, up, down patterns, sideways patterns, which is going to run this in this particular case in terms of the steps. But a lot of fun can be had with this thing too. And again, simple sequencer, step sequencer. So multiple ways to do the same things. Hopefully give you some ideas. We'll talk to you soon.